Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Town Tea, where we are serving up a cup of what's going on with your town. So I'm Katie Hodgson with NYAOT, and with me today I have Sarah Brincatella, our Deputy Director, and Lori Mithen-Damasi, our Chief Counsel, and we are going to be talking about abstentions and recusals, but mainly abstentions, right?
Mainly abstentions.
Okay, so why don't the two of you take it away?
So I'm sure you're going to jump in, but I've
Yes.
I've gotten quite a few calls about abstaining and what is it versus recusal. So I wanted to just take a few minutes and tell folks that an abstention can be used interchangeably with the term recusal, but I think of them as different things. What about you guys?
I mean, I don't have a
You're
poker
making a
face.
Harry Styles face.
I didn't know he had a signature face, but I mean, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think abstaining is a much broader endeavor than recusal. And yeah, actually, I'm not going to spoil your information.
Well, I mean, it's very basic. I just think of an abstention is not required by law, whereas a recusal is something where somebody has a conflict of interest. It's more required as opposed to a personal choice, if you will. I mean, one thing to ask yourself is, as a board member, do you actually have to vote on every matter that comes before the town board for its consideration?
What's the answer?
No, you don't. You don't have to vote. Although you should. I mean, it's a privilege to be a town board member, and you represent your constituents on the board by voting on matters that come before you. But you can choose if you're uncomfortable or if you don't feel like you have enough knowledge on a particular topic, you can choose to abstain. Um, so you might ask yourself, well, how should an abstention be recorded in the minutes? Well, an abstention should be recorded in the minutes just as it says, as an abstention. Although it may have the effect of a negative vote because under Town Law Section 63, you need at least a majority to carry any action. And so if you don't get a yes vote, if you're getting an abstention vote, although you're present for purposes of a quorum, you're not really contributing towards the yes vote. So it
The
has
way that
had
the way that
the effect of a negative, right?
yeah, the way that I describe that, because that seems to get people a little bit confused, is if you have a five-person board and you have two yays, two nays, and one person abstains, that abstention is never going to be counted as a yay. It is always going to be the functional equivalent of a nay, even though it's not recorded as a nay.
That's a really
Great
good
way to think about it.
interpretation. But it's important to record it as an abstention, right? Not as a nay in the minutes. So for town clerks out there, if you're making one of those little nice charts where, this is the resolution or the issue, and this is how each board member voted, you should have a column for abstentions. And then you can check the box. This person abstained on the issue so that you know quite clearly where you go with that.
Can I come
Okay,
in with an aside?
what's that?
Can I come in with an aside?
Absolutely.
Okay. Lori and I spent a lot of time in the car together last week, driving to and from the town clerks conference. And this past week, and I found myself singing Harry Styles to myself. So, Lori, you have impacted me. Anyway,
I don't know if you can see this, but this is my Harry Styles Treat People with Kindness mug.
now
A
viewers will
new
understand
edition.
why I'm now singing Harry Styles to myself on the weekend when Lori's
I'm,
there.
I'm
So,
sorry, I'm occupying your brain. I apologize for that.
it's fun.
Is there
Hey,
So,
Amber,
anything else?
I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to pose it to you anyway. Is there a precise definition for recusal or abstention in the law?
Not that I've actually seen, Sarah. Do you want to enlighten us?
Okay, I know that you know the answer to this question. No, there is not a specific definition to abstain or recusal. However, I like to think of abstaining as not voting on something. Recusing is like removing yourself from the entire conversation. I think of it as a broader umbrella, like abstaining is a subcategory of recusal. But your ethics policy, your town code can have a definition of what's required under recusal or what's required under abstention and actually define those terms, which I think is a really great use of a local code because, as I said, and as I know Lori knows, there is no legal definition for either of those terms. There's no statutory definition. So a lot of times we get questions about, somebody says that they recuse themselves, but they have participated in conversations up until the point of having a vote. And then they just are like, no, I've recused myself. Recusal should be removing yourself from the entire conversation so that you don't influence the process at all. As soon as you are aware or should be aware that a conflict of interest exists, you should recuse yourself. Again, removing yourself from the entire process so as not to influence it.
Including from the room. What say you?
I think that in a perfect world, it would be great if people entirely left the room because sometimes we get calls where people just sit and give like the stink eye, or I mean, I'm not well known for my poker face. Indeed, I am known for not having a
You just
poker
have a Harry Styles face, right? So I mean,
yeah. So it would be better if somebody did not sit and just go
but their
make
mere
faces.
presence gives the connotation that, or the imputation that a vote should go a certain way, even if
Yeah.
not participating.
Yep. Yep. So that is ideal.
Do you have any thoughts on what happens if it's the individual board member's own like application or issue and they have to be in the room?
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously it's not an across the board thing, right? I
They're still
mean,
a
there's going to
person,
be,
right?
what was that?
They're still a person.
Yeah.
So if I have an application pending, I'm there in my capacity as a resident of the town, right? Versus as a board member.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you think the town board you had mentioned, Sarah, putting stuff in a municipal code. Do you think the town board could require, maybe through its code or through its rules of procedure, that a board member state a reason why they're abstaining or
I
why
don't,
they're
I'm gonna pull a Lori. I don't know, Lori, what do you think?
I think under town law section 63, you certainly could. And if you're recusing due to a conflict of interest, I think you should put that on the record, right? Particularly if you have to, if it's, associated with conflicts under Article 18, you really do need to let people know why it is that you're recusing. And the board could certainly require that for abstention.
So what if the board requires that, as they can and should, but I am a difficult board member and I don't want to, and I'm not going to state the reason, then what?
There
I
really is
mean,
no penalty.
Right.
there is no penalty, but I don't think that there's anything that precludes another board member from saying, board member, you know, Mithin DeMasi is not participating in this vote because she loves Harry Styles too much, because of a conflict of interest.
I think it would be recorded in the minutes too, right? Because in the minutes, the municipal clerk would be saying, hey, this is the reason town board member Smith articulated for abstention. And if there's nothing there, they would have to say the town board member Smith did not or would not or refuse to provide a reason why, and it would be included in the minutes.
And as Lori noted, if it's a conflict of interest under general municipal law, Article 18, it is required that you disclose your conflict of interest in writing to your superior
And that
slash
has to be included
board.
in the minutes, right?
Yep.
Brings up a good question though. Like, who is the town board member superior? And what is the teeth if they refuse, or what are the teeth if they refuse to do that? Then they're violating the law.
I mean, I don't want to give a map on how to not follow the law.
That's a good
Right.
point. I'll just stop. Yeah. Think about realistic situations that you might incur.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody's so like sanction based, right? Or they want to know
Yeah.
like what happens, guys, follow the law. Just do it. You're supposed to. The law assumes that you are going to act reasonably and in accordance with it. Please do
Everyone
that.
does. Everyone acts reasonably, obviously.
Yeah, no, no, I know. But I'm like, okay, there aren't any real teeth with this, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it.
Of course.
And also to answer your other question about who is the town board superior, it's not the supervisor, guys, it's the town board. You guys are co-equals, okay? So submit it to the board.
Hot take.
Yeah,
Correct take.
I was gonna say, I mean, do you disagree with that?
No, I
Yeah.
do not.
The only other thing I wanted to add for abstentions is one of the reasons I hear folks are not prepared. They didn't go to the hearing, or they were just newly appointed to the board or newly elected, and they don't feel like they're up to speed. There's actually an opinion from the Court of Appeals that does provide that as long as you educate yourself on the record, you talk to other board members, for example, maybe you read the transcripts from the public hearing, or because you've lived in the community for so long, you're aware of what's going on with the particular issue. You can still vote. It is up, it's up to you. You can still vote as long as you've educated yourself, even if you're newly appointed or newly elected, as long as you educate and inform yourself about the issue. So that's helpful, I think, because a lot of folks maybe new to town boards don't know that.
And you have that Court of Appeals case cited within the PDF that they came here from, correct? Yep.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
basically, your advice or your recommendation is if you're new to the board, just get to step in to get yourself familiar with what's going on.
Up to speed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, don't feel like you can't vote just because you're new to the board. As long as you educate yourself, you
So
can vote.
Also, gosh, okay. I feel like I'm going back with planning and zoning boards. If you have a conflict of interest and you don't abstain or refuse to recuse yourself, and maybe you don't disclose your reason for it, even though that's not, and it's required under your local code, that could potentially be a reason to remove a planning or zoning board member because you have to remove them for cause. So there's a lot of different
that's a great point.
little differences here and there, but overall, follow the law, please.
They're one of the few public officers that can be removed for cause by the board.
Yep.
Good point.
Absolutely. It's important to pay attention to the nuances.
Good motto. Do we have anything else that we want to bring to the table?
I think that covers abstentions, just that they're, the terms can be used interchangeably, but they are functionally different than recusals.
Yep. And take a look in your code and see if you have a definition.
And if
If
not, you should, says Sarah and the rest of NYAOT staff.
we can help you with that if you need it. Have to bring it, give you some samples.
Absolutely.
All right, Katie, you want to send us off?
All right, well, that is your piping hot serving of this week's tea. We'll be back next week with more for you.
Have
Bye.
a great afternoon, evening, or morning.
Afternoon.
Day.
Yeah.
Bye.